Everyone, let's begin theory of wages. I had already completed in my previous videos factors of production, three theories: theory of interest, theory of rent, and theory of profit. Three theories are already completed. This is the last theory, that is the last factors of production, that is wages. So first of all, we would understand what do you mean by term wages and how wages can be decided in the market. So wage rate is the cost of employing one labor unit. So the money payment made to the workers during a specified period per hour, per day, per week, or per month for their mental and physical services in the process of production. That is known as wage rate, or we can call it wages. But there is a lot of difference between real wages and those wages has been decided by the demand and supply. Real wages refer to basket amount of goods and services which can be purchased with the given amount of money, wages. But perfect competition, all workers get the same wage rate, therefore marginal wage rate is equal to average wage rate. Because perfect competition, that is not imperfect competition situation, that is perfect competition situation. So modern theory of the wages explain the determination of wages by the forces of demand and supply. This theory believe how we can decide wage rate when demand and supply equilibrium we will find, right? So that would be whatever the wages on that particular equilibrium point. So these are the wages. Next, we come to the according to modern theory of the factor pricing, under conditions of perfect competition in both labor and product market, wages are determined by the forces of the demand and supply, as we said. But demand curve for labor of a firm shows different quantities of labor which will be employed by the firm at different wage rates. It will pay an entrepreneur to go on hiring more and more units of labor until its MRP equals to wage rate. I had already explained you both these things. MRP, marginal rate of production, and his profit will be maximized at that level of employment. According to the law of variable proportion, that was the law of variable proportion we had already studied in production function chapter. So as more and more units of the labor are employed to on a given amount of fixed factors, MRP increases initially and decreases eventually. And that is why the shape of this curve, that is U-shaped. Because what will be happen? Initially, this law variable proportion said this particular because we are consuming more and more fixed factors. So MRP initially that would be increasing initially and decreasing eventually. That is why it is inverted U shape. By taking various possible wage rate, we can find out various quantities of labor demanded from the MRP curve by equating the wage rate with the MRP at different points on the MRP curve. So here is downward sloping part of the MRP curve of the factor of the firm's demand curve for the labor, and this is the individual demand curve for labor. But if we will talk about that is individual demand curve, but when we will talk about market demand curve or industry demand curve, that is for labor can be derived from the individual demand curve for labor. So we can assume that the price of the product does not change as the industry produces more by employing more labor. So then the market demand curve can be obtained by summing quantities of labor demanded at alternative wages rates by all firms. The market demand curve for labor shows an inverse relation between price of labor and wage rate and demand for labor. That means we can say when there is the high rates, high prices, high wages, right? More labor would be offering, right? And but there is the low rates, low rate of wages, that would be less number of the labor they would offer. So here is elasticity of demand for labor depends on number one, greater is the elasticity of demand for a product, greater is the elasticity of labor demand for labor. Degree of substitution between labor and other factors of production. Let's say you are substituting one labor with the one capital, right? So that is the degree of substitution between labor and other factor production. State of technology determines the fall in MRP as more labor is employed. That depends on the technology. Because technology means I'm talking about labor intensive or capital intensive. You believe in, I mean, any one technology you adopted, somewhere is labor intensive technology we adopted. So where is the more labor is required and less capital is required. But when we will talk about capital intensive, so where is the more capital is required and less labor is required. So this was the on the demand side. Then we come to the supply side, and by supply of labor we mean the total number of man hours which will be offered at different wage rates. Supply of labor forces depends upon average working hours and the number of laborers. So it depends on what would be the average working hours and total how many number of labor is offering. Then we come to the what do you mean by term average wage working hours? So basically, he has a limited number of hours, like 24 hours a day at his disposal, but which he divided between work and leisure. If he work for longer hours, he is left with leisure hours of leisure, lesser hours of leisure. So given the fact as the wage rate per hour increases, the worker is tempted to work for longer hours to earn more income. And therefore he is left with lesser number of hours for leisure. An increase in wage rate will lead to increase in number of hours worked and thereby increase in the labor supply. But beyond a point, a worker may not be tempted to work more. Instead, he may like to have more leisure because he has earned a lot of income with which he may like to enjoy life by having more leisure. That means we can say even there is the exception when we are offering more wage rate, but still workers are not ready to work because already they have earned so much of income. So they would like to spend their leisure hours. So here is the higher wages. Higher wages give rise to disincentive for longer hours of work and incentives for work hours of leisure. So beyond a point, as wage rate increases, the worker may work lesser hours of work, that is supply of labor, work of hours of work, and may decrease. This behavior of the supply curve of an individual worker is represented in the form of backward sloping supply curve. That is a great exception when usually we are asking in the question paper by the student why the sloping curve, sloping supply curve that is backward. So that is the correct answer for this question. And but in the case of the market supply of labor, it may be difficult to ascertain the nature of the slope of the supply curve because with increase in wage rate, some workers may be induced to work more and others may be tempted to have more leisure. So the number of the hours worked may increase or decrease with increase in wages. However, the possibility of the backward sloping supply curve will arise only at a very high wage rate, and that also if the economy is highly developed. Let's say we will talk about earlier a worker was working for the 8 hours and he is getting, let's say, 1000 rupees. But after that, when wage rate has increased, so now a person he is getting for the 4 hours only, he is getting 800 rupees or let's say 1000 rupees. So obviously he would like to work lesser hours because same amount he is getting in the lesser duration for the lesser duration, and after that he would like to spend leisure life. So total number of hours, so total number of labor in an economy depends upon the size of the population and the age composition of the population. Size of the population, whether there is the how many people are available for work as a worker or labor, and this would be the size of the population and the age composition of the population. How many people are young age people, how many are old age people, how many male, how many female. That is the, I mean, these are the, that is the gender wise, but age composition of the population, that also matters. So equilibrium wage rate, the determination of the wages by the intersection of the demand curve and supply curve. Equilibrium wage rate is at the wage rate the demand for labor and the supply of labor are equal. So I hope this would be modern theory that is said, I mean, where is the demand and supply curve that would intersect. So equilibrium wage rate would be decided and the same wage rate will be followed. So how we can decide wage rate? These are the two important components we have discussed here. One is very, very important. This one is the composition, that is average working hours. That's important. I said earlier also. This one is the average working hours as well as the number of laborers. How many people are offering to work as worker or labor, right? So I hope this modern theory of the determination of wages that is clear to you, and keep watching and stay tuned. I would discuss some more new issues related to economics as per the, this is requested by a number of students. So I had made these videos. So thank you so much. Keep watching.